Welcome back to episode 3 of 5-Star Wrestling Reviews, Past and Present. This is our second week in review show. We're covering, I guess we're starting with Monday, July 10th, up through this past weekend. With our new format, we kind of go over a little bit of everything throughout the week because, we mostly watch AEW, or I'd say I watch it closer than most other wrestling, but there's still good stuff going on Raw and SmackDown.
And we're going to hit on a couple other places too.
Yeah.
A couple big things happened this week.
Yeah, if it happened throughout the week, then it's fair game.
So you want to dive in and just talk about the highlights that stick out instead of show by show, because there's some things that are way more talk worthy than others.
Yeah, go ahead and start. What's the first thing that? Obviously, there's a lot of shit that went on.
I think you know where I'm going to start with. Collision, the 2 out of 3 falls tag match was incredible. What makes it even more impressive, if what I read online is correct, that they called 90% or more of it in the ring. That if that's true, they went 58 minutes, and if they called most of that in the ring, that's some old school stuff right there. It looked like it flowed. Some of the camera angles, like when Dax hit the suplex and Cash came off and did the splash, the camera angle panning the whole crowd, like that just makes it seem like a bigger deal. It wasn't a big arena, but that made it feel like a huge stadium almost. This is where I get to happily give you an I told you so about Jay White.
Oh, yeah, no, you're totally right. That's our thread going back to episode 1, if you think about that, yeah.
And this is where I said happily I get to throw that one at you because it's been a build up to it, and now we got right at an hour-long Jay White. What other promotion, when he left New Japan, if he'd went to WWE, he would never get that hour-long match, especially a tag match, because they don't. But he wouldn't get a singles match like that either. But this has been a culmination, letting him build. It's like they let him build his character. Then boom, here you are on TV.
Yeah, and for some reason, I don't know why, because in retrospect, it actually does make sense. But at first, I was like, so they're clearly doing Jay White and Juice as a tag team, which at first I was like, okay, that's not a bad idea. And for some reason in my mind, it was just the Bullet Club connection. I forget that they have probably been, they started in the New Japan Dojo at basically the same time, right about 2015. So they're probably extremely good friends. So it shouldn't be a shock that they're a really awesome tag team. But, holy shit, AEW already had all the best most of the best tag teams in the world. And you throw a team like that on top of it that can go out and do 58 minutes. And that was a 5-star match for me.
58 minutes of pure entertainment.
And so talking about the time, I guess the only thing we really have to compare, Hangman and Danielson did an hour. What was that, like year and a half ago or something like that?
They did the hour one and an hour draw.
Right. And then,
MJF and Danielson having the Iron Man match.
Right, which went just a little over an hour.
And then, and that's really the only couple hour-long matches.
Yeah, and I guess I'm thinking specifically about TV. Hell, the last time WWE did anything like that, wasn't it Cena and Shawn Michaels in England or London back like 13 or 14 years ago, where they had that like 55-minute match or whatever it was that came out of nowhere?
I think so, because before that hour-long one was Brock and Kurt on SmackDown and the Iron Man.
Right, and I was at that. That was, I actually had a really good seat for that, so I remember that very well. But, and in 2004, they did a Chris Benoit Triple H Iron Man match on TV too, though obviously you're never going to hear anybody talk about that.
Well, and let's bring up Benoit, the whole thing I noticed right up front.
There's
David Benoit front row.
I mean, he looks exactly like him, so it's
He can't hide if he tried.
no, and I mean, it's not like he did anything wrong, so
Mm-mm.
there's no reason why. I mean, I can understand why a wrestling company might not necessarily want him wrestling on their show because of what people would think of. But I mean, hell, if he's
There's no
got a
need to
mind
hold,
for it and stuff, he could work backstage.
but there's no need to hold the sins of the father against the son.
Oh, of course not. I mean, just because he looks exactly like him, like I saw him immediately, and my first thought was, I'm glad that he's there instead of, I can't believe he's sitting there. I was glad that he is okay to sit there and not, because of course people are going to talk about that and people are going to freak out, and I think unnecessarily. But yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. He just,
And I'll be honest, I was watching at times his reactions. Like, I was curious, is he enjoying it? Is he?
he seemed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I don't think there didn't seem to be a lot of people in there not enjoying it. But so I did take down some notes about that match. I didn't really take down much notes about anything really. Well, a couple other small things, but so I was trying to keep up with when the falls were, because so what the match last week was 28 minutes, right? I don't remember what we predicted as far as time. I think we said that it certainly had to be longer than 28 minutes if it's going to be 2 out of 3 falls.
Mm-hmm.
But the first fall happened right about the 25-minute mark, and they had already been going hard, like hard. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, if the first fall is at 25 minutes, then this is going to go at least 40, unless they do some quick back-to-back falls, which I'm really glad they didn't. I mean, so, and I think this was before. Do you remember when they did? So there were a few spots that I wrote down. You said a moment ago about the crowd pan during the Power and Glory spot, right?
Yep.
And they usually hit that, but they did a twist on it. They did it, and then what? Cash jumped and his opponent moved, and then I can't remember if it was Jay or Juice came from the other turnbuckle, like out of camera, and landed right on him, and it was a twist on the.
I think it was Juice. I think Jay got his knees up.
Okay, yeah, whatever it was, the person who was supposed to be taking it on the bottom avoided it in some way, and that was the first time I'd ever seen that. But I noticed there were about 3 or 4 spots in there, like, you know, your classic FTR tag team spots that they didn't just do. They did them, and they added a completely new twist to it, at least new for me. I hadn't seen it. I mean, I'm not to say they hadn't done it before, but I just appreciate the creativity when, you know, you're a super over worker or tag team or whatever, and you've got your spots and they're going to get a big reaction. Obviously, it just gets boring if you do them repeatedly. So, you know, mixing it up. But so, yeah, I got the first fall at 25 minutes. The second one was at 40 minutes. And then I didn't have a timer. I was just going off of the time on the run time on the show, and that I gave about 5 minutes for entrances. And yeah, I had 58 minutes written down as the final, but was that official?
Yes.
Okay.
So question for you based off of this match, because we've seen FTR have these classics now with Jay and Juice. We've seen it with the Bucks. We've seen it with the Briscoes. We've seen it in WWE. If you go back to when they faced even American Alpha, when they faced Gargano and Ciampa, there's one constant in there. It's FTR. Where does FTR rank in terms of the great tag teams to you?
I mean,
that's a tough one.
I mean, I guess it's kind of hard. Like, we didn't get to see matches in the 80s with, you know, the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express, where they would go 60 minutes 5 times a week or whatever, and it wasn't on TV. I can only imagine how incredible that was. But if I can only judge that on what I have actually seen and not going off of hearsay, because obviously you hear that those matches were incredible, and I fully believe that they were. But it's basically like FTR.
Because think about this, like, since we've been watching, think about it, since we started watching in the 90s, you've had the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Usos, New Day, the Briscoes, the Young Bucks, so many teams that, I mean, have changed the game. But for me, FTRs, they're way up there because the fact that they've done it, different promotions, even if you consider NXT a different promotion, because at that time it was the complete.
And ROH too, so technically that's 4.
And so at that time, NXT was the alternative to WWE when Hunter was fully running it. Then they did it at the WWE level. They did it with Ring of Honor. They've done it in Japan. They've done it in AEW. I mean, you could sing their praises all day.
I mean, I think maybe even the crazier part is, considering all the matches they've had, you would think that it might be like, okay, yeah, they're definitely the best tag team of the last 20 years, but I can't, or the last 30 years. I can't even necessarily say that. They're definitely up there, but when you factor in the Bucks, the Usos, obviously the Briscoes, those 4 to me are like 4 of the best teams ever, and most likely the 4 best teams of the last 25 years. Maybe throw the Hardys in there or something. I don't know, but crazy. I think I might put FTR at the top, but part of that is because I enjoy their style more so than.
Well, it's like they know when to do the big stuff. It's not a pure spot fest like the Bucks.
Right, and the Bucks are awesome, but they're like awesome, but as a complete opposite. So that's why I hope that now FTR, and I mean, I'd have no problem with them doing another match with Jay and Juice, because of course it would be awesome. But I think for Wembley, they're going to go to the Bucks and FTR, because I mean, I feel like they've been about to do that match now for about a year, and it's like, for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And then, of course, that plays directly into the Punk stuff with the Elite. Though, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, FTR and the Bucks, as far as I know, are. I mean, FTR didn't do anything wrong, so.
No, they're just friends of Punk.
But that's what I'm saying. Even if that wasn't the situation, that would be a huge match for All In. But when you factor in the whole Punk factor and FTR are, almost unofficially in a stable with them, then it takes on a whole new meaning. But yeah, man, that match is crazy. Like, and it was actually about 2 days later before I finally saw it. And yeah, I mean, it felt like it was about 20 minutes. Let's put it that way.
Well, hats off to Daivari, who was the producer of that match.
Yeah. So you told me that. I didn't even know that he was. And we're talking about the Ari Daivari, the not Sean Daivari, the
correct.
Older, we're talking about the guy who's like what, maybe 30?
Ari Daivari, yeah.
And he was in the cruiserweight division, and he's doing. I guess him producing is probably better than that crappy Trust Busters angle that I don't know if that's still going on Ring of Honor or not. But dude, if that guy produced that. Unless he's been producing a whole bunch of matches and we just weren't aware of it over the last couple of years, he's pretty good at it. To maybe make an understatement.
Well, he also had chicken salad thrown at him. He didn't have to take chicken shit to make it chicken salad. He had 4 great workers.
Yeah.
And I said, the fact that they called it in the ring, I mean, that's more on the workers, in my opinion. The producers, they're making sure the timing to this and that. Yeah, but those 4 if Jay hadn't had a coming out party yet, this sure was it. Because
Juice too. Yeah. I mean,
and Juice, I love his character development, like on screen, because it started off as you had to have known him in Japan to understand, but now you're getting Juice. It's
just kind of a wild man, and he's
Jay and Juice, honestly, have been like highlights of Collision for me. I know we've had Punk back and all that, but still, it's they've been showcased on that show.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Collision, I think of the majority of the roster are people who came back after being gone for a while for whatever reason. Punk being the number one, but Andrade, Miro, go down the list, Thunder Rosa. But it was like. Jay and Juice are so new that they never had a chance to go anywhere. They clearly were earmarked for that show. And yeah, they have been dude, if you think about total minutes, we've had what, 4 episodes of Collision? They've been in the ring for like a good 2 hours of that 8-hour period, which is a quarter of the time on television.
Yep.
And all of it was really good. So I guess you can say the same thing about FTR, but I mean, I guess if you had told me a few months ago that was going to be the case, that wouldn't have shocked me. Jay and Juice, I would have been a little more surprised at them not just being a great team, but I mean, they were on the level of FTR. There were several times where I thought that Jay and Juice were actually going to win.
Me too.
Then I was like, okay, well, they're going to do a draw and we're going to get another match eventually. And then I started, I don't know, I wasn't shocked when they didn't do the draw, because I do love when they go right up against the time limit and everybody's like, okay, it's going to be a draw. And then all of a sudden with like 1 or 2 minutes left, somebody gets the big win. But
they've done enough draws. They've done enough draws where you think it's an actual option, because it's not like they've never done it. Like, they've done it when you least expected it.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of several draws that AEW has done on TV. I can't necessarily think of one on pay-per-view off the top of my head. I'm sure there is one. But, yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's planted in people's head that that's a possibility, that's what I started to, once it got 50 minutes, that was what I was thinking. And I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't be a draw. So I was glad that, they finished it. But
when I heard the 5 minutes left call, that's when I was like, it's going to be a draw.
So the only issue, I don't think they were making those time calls until the last 5 minutes. And maybe that was on purpose. But so one of the things I like about New Japan is they always 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Every 5 minutes, they make an announcement. So when you're getting towards the time limit, everybody knows, but it's not a giveaway because they do it for every match. It's just most matches don't make it that far. Whereas here, I didn't hear any announcement. Now, I could understand if at 5 minutes, yeah, that's probably the most important part, saying there's 5 minutes left, and you got to do that so the crowd realizes just what they're exactly seeing. But I think they should just do the announcements throughout all the matches, but that's just a personal thing for me. So,
but it could be where maybe they don't, in respect to their partner, to not copy their ideas.
Fair enough. That's probably a good point.
Because, I mean, there's such crossover with everything. I mean, hell, Eddie's at the G1 and all this. So Tony may have liked the idea, but it could be of a respectful, I'm just not going to copy him.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I know he likes, he said he was a fan of New Japan. That is a New Japan thing. So, yeah, maybe their thing going forward is if it's a 30-minute time limit, you announce when there's 5 minutes left. If there's a 60-minute time limit, you announce when there's 5 minutes left, because that means everything's got to go into overdrive for somebody to try to finish it before we end up with a draw.
So that was the first thing for me for the whole week was that match. It was just,
and it was at the end of the week.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even what was supposed to be the most important thing on that show, I don't think.
No, but on that show as well, we got Punk doing the job.
I had a feeling that Punk was not going to win.
I actually was shocked. I thought there's no way he's coming back, and they've made him, try to make him face the Collision, all the promos, all the everything, all the commercials. I thought, okay, this is Punk's tournament, and try to get him back up ranks, especially after the belt deal when he first came back. Try to build that credibility. They got me. They 100% they got me. I did not think Ricky had a chance.
It wasn't clean, obviously. But I
thought
it was.
It's still.
It was still a big deal. I'm not saying it had to be at all, because I thought Ricky Starks looked really good. And if you remember back when Punk first came in, I'm talking about like almost 2 years ago now, he talked about some of the young guys that he specifically wanted to work with, and Ricky Starks was one of those names that he threw out there. So the fact that he was willing to put him over really didn't shock me. My thought was this: if Punk wins, then I guess you can say maybe that makes the Owen Cup level up a little bit, right? But if Ricky wins, then Ricky himself is going to level up a little bit. And that would have been the case even if he had beaten somebody else to win the tournament. Say he beat Joe in the finals, that would have still been a big deal. But the fact that he beat Punk, and clearly afterwards, because Ricky's leaving, he grabbed the rope, technically he cheated. I even feel like Bryce Remsburg actually noticed it at the last second. And for a second, I thought they were going to restart the match. It wasn't until like the streamers and stuff started coming down that I was like, oh, okay, that's actually it. And then
I'm the same.
Yeah, poor Jushin Liger is up there with the trophy, and Ricky basically just like rips it out of his hands and is like, fuck you, old man, and just goes to the back. So clearly he's a heel now after, being a babyface for whenever he left Team Taz, probably a little over a year ago. But I think
Myths and Legends from Amazon Music.
All right.
I think the heel move is going to be good for him.
Yeah, well, Ricky's good in general. I think he's better as a heel. So, yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, that was another.
And the way they did it was perfect, too, because it was like he's
subtle.
in there.
It was a subtle turn. It wasn't just like, I'm going to start being a dick. It was.
That's basically what I was about to say. I mean, it made sense. He's in there in the biggest match of his life against the biggest name in the company. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If you got to grab the rope to get the win and do that, then grab the rope and get the win. I mean, what did being a babyface really get Ricky? He got a title shot at MJF and he lost. And then he had a program with Jericho that probably went a little too long. But, yeah, I mean, I thought they had an impossible task to live up to that first match. So clearly they weren't even going to try. It was 20 minutes. It was a very good match, especially for TV. I mean, again, I'm still coming off of that first match, so totally grading on a curve. But, I mean, I thought it was very good.
But
I was more interested in the outcome than the actual match.
The tag match could not have main evented because that would have been a dead giveaway of the time and what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You just
I was glad the tag match went first.
It's in retrospect, now having watched the show, I'm glad. At first I'm thinking, man, I thought this would maybe be last, a big blow off deal. But then I like when if they do the draws and do all that, they put it on first, so you just don't know. Because like I said, if they put it on last, then you already know what's going to happen. And
the only way, because remember, and I don't know if you watched Battle of the Belts after I didn't, but because remember, the celebration from Ricky and him leaving went into the last or the first minute or two of Battle of the Belts, which whenever they finish one show and actually go into another one where it's really just a continuation of the first show, I always think that's very cool. So
I did watch the celebration part live.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I watched that live because my DVR always it gets Collision and Dynamite, and then it automatically adds 45 minutes onto it, I guess, to catch the overrun. But because they've been doing like about a 2 or 3, or Dynamite's been doing, I can think, a 2-minute overrun for the last few weeks, and it's brought their viewership up substantially. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I do know that it's gone up as a result.
Collision, it did, if I'm not mistaken, it did over 500,000.
I think I heard it was like 520 or something like that. So
it kind of like we talked about it this week, it was good to see that apparently from the media company from Warner, they're more concerned about where they rank versus the overall rating score. It's like, okay, we could be at 500,000, but were we in the top 3? Okay, hey, we're good.
They were in the top 3, right?
And so I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like that's what the company's looking at instead of just a number. Times have changed because so much streaming, so much all that like DVRing, all of that's real aspects in it now. So you can't compare to how the ratings used to be.
No, I've always wondered, and after a while, like, are they able to get the exact DVR numbers? Because, I mean, I guess there's no way. They can maybe see how many people DVR'd it. That doesn't tell them how many people actually went back and watched it. I mean, I've DVR'd stuff before and never actually watched it. But
see, that I'm not sure how that works, to be honest.
But, yeah, I'm glad that they're not like, well, it's got to be over 500,000 for it to be a success. Because, I mean, TV viewership for cable is going down all over the country. So it's not like –
and it's on Saturday night. And let's be real, this fall, the number is going to take a hit.
Well, yeah. I mean, on Saturdays, I mean, when college football starts, I hope that they have something big planned. I do think it's interesting that I think all the stories that they're currently doing and that are either starting or in the process are, it seems like from a timetable perspective, are building up to the back-to-back weeks of All In and All Out, and that's right before football starts.
Yep, it's good timing. Because especially here in the South,
Yeah.
Saturday football is a huge deal, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to take a big hit no matter what. So,
because I mean, I'll go ahead and say, like, if the Georgia game's on during that time frame, I'm probably watching the Georgia game.
Yeah, but that's what DVR is for. You're not going to watch the Georgia game on DVR, but
No.
wrestling shows you can watch on DVR all the time. You know, real sports don't really.
Or just wait for them to blow out their opponent again, and then I turn it off.
Or that, which will probably happen pretty regularly. So,
well, a guy can be hopeful.
Yeah.
But
I just wonder if Tony has something special with all this stuff leading up to the two big shows that are right before football. I can't imagine he doesn't have some idea of what he's going to do during football to try to get, salvage the ratings as much as he can, because
he'll try some stuff, obviously. While we're talking AEW, something that happened with someone from AEW that wasn't at AEW, Don Callis.
Oh, what, in Mexico? Where? So, yeah, I about to say, I know what I heard a little bit about it. You may know more about it than me. So, what exactly happened? I mean,
so him and Takeshita, Omega had his match with Vikingo, and Omega lost to Vikingo. Right. So think about this: the same week, Omega and Punk both put over somebody young.
That's a good point.
It's so they have their match, but then after the match, Callis and Takeshita show up and start beating the crap out of Kenny. Yeah, afterwards, Callis gets attacked by a fan or a security guard, like somebody who thought this was not supposed to happen, and he legit got attacked.
He didn't get stabbed or anything, did he?
No.
I would have heard of that, but
no, that's
I bet he loved it.
And I mean, that is, we talked earlier about FTR being old school. This is old school heat. I mean, this is Dom on Raw and all, he has mega heat because he can't say a word.
Yeah.
But Dom's not getting attacked in a parking lot or attacked somewhere because somebody, I mean, it's like, I remember watching some of the documentaries and like Foley and some of those guys saying, after the show, if you went to your car and your tires were slit, they were going to ask you how many, because if it was all 4, then you got heat, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just glad that the person who attacked him didn't, have a knife or something, because obviously, not that couldn't happen in the United States, but it does seem like when people take it that seriously and are into it to that degree, it seems like it's in Mexico where that usually happens, or like Puerto Rico or something like that, where they take their wrestling quite seriously when they're.
Except for the dude that speared Seth on Raw.
Well, yeah, that was just a weird thing where he thought he was talking to him online or something. He was being catfished or whatever.
I mean, it's Callis getting that level of heat anywhere. It don't matter where. Like, that's huge in today's modern wrestling.
Dude, I love Callis, and I thought when he wasn't coming out with music, it was very good. And the first time I heard his new music, I was like, I don't know. But now when I hear it, it's so different than what you would expect a wrestling theme to sound like. It almost just like is supposed to hurt your ears. So it's like, I actually kind of like that. That fits.
It's fitting. So that's another big takeaway. I mean, and
did you watch that match?
Vikingo and Omega?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either, but
I'm sure it's gold.
Of course. I'm just gonna have to figure out. I'd like to see that, but I am not gonna watch the entire show. I don't think so.
Right. Then Dynamite was a huge deal. We talked about it last week, how pumped we were. So, and kind of a side note, this is why I like this new format. It's kind of, we can just scatter around and hit these highlights. It's the big deals that pop out. It's
the stuff you're going to remember in a few months.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to remember Nick Wayne's debut.
Holy shit, dude. Like, we talked about how much we loved the first video the week before. And so this one was even better. Like, I teared up a little bit
It's
watching it.
God, because I remember I think I was ahead of you. I was like, dude, just wait till you watch this. And I remember that's the only thing I told you about the whole show was this video, man. It's very like emotional video. They're giving the backstory. They're giving like who he really. I mean, this is Nick Wayne.
It's not a character. This is everything they're doing is completely legitimate and real. That's what makes it good.
He's friggin' 18 years old, and
what he can do. 18, like, so we're recording on what, the 18th? I think his birthday was on like the 10th or something.
But for him to be able to do what he can do at 18 years old, personally, I was a fan of him losing.
Oh, I agree. I agree, especially
to Swerve,
because I think that's going to set up another program going into Wembley. I think they're going to end up doing Darby and Swerve or some kind of combination that might get Nick Wayne involved or Sting. But
I saw online you had mixed reactions, or a lot of people were pissed that he lost. But
really?
here's the thing: they're like, oh, they missed their mark to make a new star. They missed this. No, like getting him out there.
He's just that's a huge win in and of itself.
And I was listening to because I've told you over the years, like I'll listen to Busted Open. And when I was listening, they brought up a good point that you got to learn to lose before you learn to win. I even heard Tommy Dreamer talking about Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray talking about how it was Bully. He met Shane McMahon one time, and he was looking for advice on, when to get the tape. This is when they would send tapes in and all those, like, trying to figure out what to send, what to do. And Shane's advice, send us a tape. But when you do it, make sure the closing shot is you doing the job. He said, because he said promoters want to know you will do the job before they turn the keys over to you. I was like, that makes complete sense because they want to make sure you're not going to be, I got to win. Yeah, it's so like hearing that backstory of that, from the early 90s and then seeing this, like, I completely agreed. Like,
well, hell, Tommy Dreamer, he always lost. Tommy Dreamer he won like one match or maybe two matches in ECW ever. He beat Raven in their blow off and he won the world title and then immediately lost it. And Tommy Dreamer basically lost every other match he had.
And he got over losing.
Yes.
But Nick Wayne's 18. He's going to be fine. But here's the thing, like Swerve's been around 12 plus years wrestling on the scene.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about believability, you really think an 18-year-old kid's going to knock someone who's been doing it for 12 years professionally?
So that was a complaint that I heard from some people. And I mean, Nick Wayne, he's 18. He looks like he's 18. I'm sure in a few years, he's probably going to have like another 30 pounds of muscle on him, and he's not going to look like a kid anymore because he won't be a kid anymore. But I like the match a lot. Yep. No doubt about it. But the video that they did earlier, I mean, they had pictures of him crawling around in that wrestling ring when he was like 9 months old. And they had video of him training with his dad doing very complicated high spots at like 9 years old. And then when they tied it in with his mother telling him that his father had died and she took him into that room and they sat right there where he was sitting on the edge of the ring. And dude, like, that's what I'm saying.
How can you not instantly be a fan of the guy?
That's what I'm saying. If Nick Wayne, as long as, and we know he has good, I mean, he's already a great wrestler, so it's not like that's even an issue. He's going to have good matches. As long as there is not some crazy situation that completely, derails his momentum that you could have never predicted. If he doesn't become like a massive babyface, then wrestling fans are completely heartless. I think I said that to you last week because
he's got a great mentor in Darby, who Darby has his own mentor, Sting. So Wayne's going to be directly or indirectly mentored by Sting. And at 18, when I was 18, that would have been a dream.
Think about the fact that he's 18. He was born 4 years after WCW shut down. So, and I bet you he's gone back and probably watched everything, on WWE Network that he possibly could over the last 10 or 15 years or whatever. So it's not like this is new stuff for him, but like literally we have his origin story as under a year old, crawling around in a ring. His dad's a wrestler. And I didn't realize until they said it that his grandfather was a wrestler.
I didn't realize that either.
So he's third generation. His grandfather was one of the Moondogs. I think it was Moondog Maine was his name, or was it? Whatever it was. There's like 3 or 4 Moondogs that there were throughout like the 70s and 80s, but apparently he was one of those. And yeah, and then his dad was probably a regional. Obviously, he was probably more known as a trainer than I think he was probably one of those guys that did like spots with WWE where he just enhancement talent basically. Yep. But clearly was, he's like
he had a mind for the business.
Yes,
it clicked.
He's probably going to end up with more notoriety for the people that he trained going on to being superstars than for him wrestling himself, which
think of a Lance Storm. That's how I think, because Storm's wrestling career is it's underrated. Like people don't understand how good he was.
Yeah.
But his school, he also turns out good prospects.
Yeah. That's a pretty good comparison. Like I'm pretty sure I had heard of his father just from like watching episodes of Superstars or whatever in the 90s and seeing him, get beaten 3 minutes by Kane or something like that.
But I think we're going to look back at this and one day we're going to sit around and be able to say, we watched live when he made his TV debut.
And where they even tied it back to almost the day he was born by showing footage of him in a wrestling ring. I mean, you can't write a better story than that. And I'm just glad that Tony is smart enough that when he signed him almost 2 years ago, right? Yeah. And he had to complete high school and turn 18 and then he could come along. And now I think it's going to start paying dividends. I mean,
Triple H would love to have that kid.
Oh, of course. I'm sure there's a lot of people in AEW, some of which Triple H did have before that he would love to have back and is angry that they lost him in the first place.
Adam Cole.
I mean, that would probably be maybe him and like Malachi might be like the top 2 on that list.
And FTR.
There you go. Those 4.
Yeah, I think Cole.
You could make your own promotion of all the people that WWE lost to AEW that Hunter probably would give his left arm to have back.
Buddy Matthews.
And I mean, hell, I feel like Buddy Matthews has been underutilized, but maybe now that, they're on Collision more. And I know that, they've got their feud going with Andrade, but I do want to see Buddy Matthews. I don't feel like we've gotten enough of him to show how good he really is, but
right. I brought up a name, which is a perfect transition for us to keep going through this long week of wrestling we had. Adam Cole.
So, all right. So I've heard mixed reviews, and I think I specifically said it was either last week or the week before that I wasn't sold on this thing yet. I think now it's become pretty obvious that the main reason for this whole blind tag team eliminator tournament was for Cole and MJF to have a vehicle for their story to continue. And
at least we've gotten good matches out of it too. Like
we've gotten good matches out of it.
It wasn't like just here, put this together, focus on these 2 and screw everybody else. Like, no, we got the best Keith Lee we've seen in this tournament.
I thought the video they did, and I'm sure there are people who didn't like it, they intentionally made it cheesy. It wasn't like, I fully believe they were aware of what they were doing there, and I very much enjoyed that video. I actually watched it twice.
It made me think of them trying to portray MJF as a Ric Flair to go get all the girls and get all this, and Adam Cole as the modern day, I'm going to go play video games.
Yeah, and then they meet somewhere in the middle, and
they play video games.
Games, and MJF says he's never played a multiplayer game because you have to have friends for that.
Mm-hmm. And Cole wearing the "Better Than You, Baby" shirt, and I'll be honest, I want that damn shirt because the phrase on it is just gold to me. I like the pair. I mean, this is AEW Sports Entertainment. Let's be real. But to me, this has been sports entertainment done entertaining fashion. The key is they are entertaining. They're entertaining me. I'm loving this
I came around on it. I wasn't sold at first, and I've come around on it.
I love MJF acting like Roddy during the entrance, the running around Cole, getting in the positions just like Strongwood, all of that. I love it because to me that tells me at some point Strong's going to come and beat the shit out of MJF.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I agree with everything you've said. So here's my question, and this only crossed my mind after watching Dynamite this week. I think the whole tournament was put together with the main goal being the Cole and MJF stuff. They had their match. Oh, that was a time limit. Hey, we missed that one. That was a 30-minute time limit that they did that, a month ago or so.
Yep.
That was going to be the continuation that would get them back to another match that would be, a pay-per-view main event or whatever it was. What are the chances now that this has gotten over to the point that people like it, that they actually run with it for a little while? And then I don't know who MJF would be facing, come Wembley. So I don't think they're going to do that. But is there a chance that it's so over that they're like, hey, let's wait like another 6 months and make these guys really good? So then when MJF eventually kicks Adam Cole right in his dick, people are truly sad. And
I think that would be contingent on knowing for sure that MJF has signed an extension.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah. Which, I mean, we don't know. I guess maybe the news would have come out, but if I were him, I wouldn't sign anything yet. He's going to get a lot of money.
The bidding war of 2024.
But you notice that he hasn't mentioned anything about that in quite a while.
But he's going to come back around.
Come back up, but
especially, I say give it September, October. Because it's supposed to be in January, I believe.
Is it that early in the year?
I think so.
I mean, I know that AEW first started, in January, because it was when the Bucks and Hangman were able to, they weren't in New Japan anymore. And I don't know exactly what day would be considered like day one for the company, but MJF was definitely signed at the beginning. So,
yeah. And I look at day one as I go by, all right, air date.
Double or Nothing.
That's when it's actually the first show under the AEW name. That's what I go for as premiere day.
I agree. I just wonder what day he actually would have signed the contract because, yeah, if that was when he signed it, then he'd still have almost a year until his contract was up. I'd find it hard to believe that MJF is still champion if Tony wasn't pretty confident that MJF was going to be sticking around.
There is another pay-per-view after All Out, though, so.
I mean, MJF's not going to hold the belt forever. I mean, by the time we get to that pay-per-view you're mentioning, that will make the 1 year mark for him, which that was all when he won it originally. I said, I want him to hold it for at least roughly a year. So it doesn't, he's not a transitional champion and he's 9 months in or something. So,
yeah, I just had a thought. Do you think at that time, at the end of the year, the pay-per-view, that's when they run Punk and JF again and they do a reverse of the Punk and Cena, but when Punk blew the kiss and went out through the crowd, put the belt in the fridge.
Oh, shit. I hadn't thought about that. They could totally do their own version of that. That would not surprise me. Did that just come to you?
Yes. If you want to make it even better, book the show in MJF's hometown.
Yeah, put it in Buffalo. Or, I'm sorry, Long Island.
Yep, put it there. And they could run their version that's not PG, that's not this. They could, and I think Punk would be into it because it's playing into his history. To do that, Punk would have to do the job again. I don't think it's a horrible idea.
No, if they copied it note for note, then
stupid.
But I don't think that would happen. If they were going to do it, I think they would do it in their own way. And I think that could potentially be awesome. I mean, especially you could say that that's been built up to for like 2 years, however long since MJF first started saying the bidding war of 24. I mean, that would be a hell of a way to capitalize on, you don't usually make that huge a deal of somebody's contract coming due. Remember back when, when Punk did it, it was just like a random comment he made on Raw, like in the summer of 2011. He was like, my contract is up on whatever the day was, Money in the Bank. And then that went right into the feud. And obviously the rest of that was complete gold. But yeah, I mean, you got Punk there to play the other side. You got MJF, who, of course, if he wanted to go to WWE, he very easily could. It's not like he's going to have to do something special to get there. He would be accepting millions of dollars a year, which, again, I hope he stays in AEW.
Because all we would get if he goes there is a watered down version, because he can't say most of what he says.
I'm sure he would still end up getting over and doing great, but it wouldn't be quite the same.
No, him watered down makes me think of like a Miz. It's like MJF.
I mean, that's what
MJF acts like on AEW if the Miz wasn't held back, what you could see happening. But yeah, I've enjoyed the pairing of the two. I told you I was entertained from the first thing I saw, because I was like, this was, to me, comedy gold for wrestling. I've enjoyed it. Just waiting for when they do the inevitable breakup. Do they win the tournament and face FTR, or do they lose? And because they lost, like, this is when MJF just screw you.
So here's what I think. I think they were going to go to the finals of the tournament no matter what. I think because this has been relatively successful, and I mean, I don't know what the quarter-hour ratings are or anything, but it seems like it's gotten over more than I expected. In that case, you might as well have them do the extra match, because the finals of this thing is on Wednesday, right? Them against Sammy and Daniel Garcia.
Yep.
And so if the ending is right there, I'm sure it would. They'll do something that'll be good. But I think if they win it and go on to actually have the match with FTR, that would be a big deal too. I mean, that would be a huge match for TV. But then my question is this: do they win the tag titles? I say no, but I wouldn't completely rule it out.
Or do they, if they wanted to take the titles off of FTR, which I don't see why they would want to after what they just did, but this
I hope they don't do that. But
just a hypothetical. All right, this week the match is going on. MJF turns on Cole. If they're building to a Cole MJF, can you really have Cole take the pin right now? So MJF basically walks out, fed up. He doesn't want to wrestle again. I've been wrestling too much. The whole, you're supposed to be rare. Cole finds a way to get the victory. And so Cole gets...
And you're talking about this week in the finals?
Yep.
Okay.
And so because of MJF walking on his partner, he gets to name a partner. He gets to have a replacement, and that's how you bring Roddy back in. And so then they can start the thing where Roddy going like, I know I wasn't drawing it, but you got hooked into this. Like, they could start that whole rabbit hole of everything to lead to, even if you want to do MJF and Roddy at All In and MJF and Cole at All Out.
Yeah, I definitely think MJF and Cole is going to be at one of those shows. I don't know if Roddy's at the level that he would have a pay-per-view match with MJF unless they really got him involved in this storyline and it just really clicked. Because, I mean, I love Roderick Strong and have for a long time, but he's still got a ways to go in it.
Because his match against Jericho, I mean, he had a good showing on that.
All of his matches are good. That's not the problem. It's just and I think he's gotten way better on the microphone than he was given credit for. I think being in NXT was probably the best thing for his career to get more well-rounded, and I hope he gets pushed harder. But he's never been pushed anywhere near that to that level. So I would be surprised if they did that, but I would be surprised if Cole and MJF wasn't one of the title matches between one of those two shows, basically.
Well, they could make that headline All In, and that's where the swerve happens.
Yeah. Wait, so you mean like headline with Cole versus MJF and
Cole and MJF against FTR?
At Wembley?
Yep.
And then the turn happens, and then a week later they have the title match?
Yep.
I can see that. So I just think it's interesting that, and I know we're really not that close to All In, but it's still only about, 6 weeks away?
Yeah, a month and a half.
And I don't feel like they've really, unless Cole and MJF is the title match at Wembley, which I'm not convinced that it is, I don't really feel like they've made it clear what the top of the card is going to be, which they've still got 6 weeks, so it's not like they had to have, but...
Well, they've sold 70,000 tickets.
So it doesn't matter. You're right. But I would be, and I did see this week that Tony said that it will be broadcast live in the United States and we'll be able to see it one way or another.
It's, well, I say it doesn't matter. They still got to get the pay-per-view buy, so it does matter.
It does matter. But, I mean, part of the draw of that pay-per-view is going to be the fact that it's in front of that many people, too.
Yep.
So, I mean...
See how some of these guys do who've never seen a crowd that size.
I just feel like usually when we're 6 weeks out from a card of that magnitude, like, I would compare it to like a WrestleMania or, All Out in most years. Usually you can kind of see the card coming together like, okay, they're probably going to do this as the main event and they're going to do this and this. He hasn't revealed his hand. So, I mean, it's...
If they didn't have the show the week after, we could probably paint a decent picture. But that show the week after makes it where I really don't know.
Yeah, he's basically booking like a 2-week pay-per-view with, that's split up over... I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, of course, we got plenty of, Saturday night, Sunday night pay-per-view shows like WrestleMania has done the last couple of years. But doing... they're basically doing what, Saturday and then Saturday? That's
still with having Wednesday, or would it be Sunday and Sunday because of collisions?
Oh yeah, you're right. It probably would be Sunday. I forgot that they're doing Sundays now instead of Sundays.
You're gonna have Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. That's gonna be a lot of wrestling that week if people were to try to actually watch all of it. So
I'm gonna try my dangest.
I might miss Rampage, but otherwise I'll try to watch all of that.
Actually, no, I won't be able to watch it all. I'll be able to watch All In. I'll be able to watch All Out because of our trip. We're gone that Monday.
For Disney?
Yeah, we're gone.
That's fair excuse. That's okay. You'll still see it when you get back.
I've already said like the night before when we're staying there, like we can go. But I'm finding a way to watch the show Sunday night before we get on that damn boat.
You can watch it on your phone.
Oh, I'm gonna. Worst case, I'll hook my computer to the TV.
Or there you
go. So I can see it on the screen. And then we get back Sunday. We're driving back home, and hey, if we get home, I'm getting ready to watch wrestling again.
I mean, there's enough of it that it's definitely going to take a while to get through all of that. And let's not forget that. Well, no, I guess the G1 would end a week or two before that, but.
Speaking G1 makes me think Japan because I can't believe we went 55 minutes and I brought this up. The blood and guts announcements.
So yes.
So hold on, let's just say this. That's how much has happened this week. We're 55 minutes in and we haven't talked about freaking Kota Ibushi.
There's so much good wrestling that I genuinely have a hard time keeping up with it throughout the week. Obviously, because of we have full-time jobs and families and stuff like that. But I literally have a hard time watching all the wrestling that I want to watch. I've only watched the first night of the G1 and there's already been 3. So but yes, tell me your thoughts.
So kind of briefly talked about before we came on here. When Pac was announced at first, I had forgotten the history and I was like, how does this play? Like, isn't he Death Triangle? Isn't this? But
it seemed a little random at first glance.
But then they immediately had him tell the reason why. I was like, oh shit, he's right. This actually makes sense. And Pac is freaking nuts. They've made him look like he's dangerous. Like,
I love it. I love his character.
And so he has the character to go in blood and guts and do something crazy, be violent. And then we get Kota Ibushi, we probably thought the worst kept secret since Punk, we knew it was
I'm okay with.
My first thought when I saw Ibushi my first thought when I saw the actual Ibushi announcement was, Wheeler, you're just gonna get his fucking head kicked in. Because he's gonna be
probably still going to have that happen.
He's gonna be the one to take it. Because I'm just waiting.
Killer Kota is going to come out at some point where he just gets that, and just
now. What about if this moment happens? Everybody's down, but all of a sudden here's Kota and here's Takeshita. And they have that stare off, like you said, Killer Kota just standing there, and then Takeshita, he has some of the similar mannerisms.
He's a much larger guy, so everybody might know of Killer Kota, but obviously Takeshita is a little more imposing as far as a very large man.
But it's I do think we're gonna get that stare off, and I would say that could be an all-in match.
I think that would be incredible. I mean, I think there's no doubt that we're going to get a big Takeshita versus Omega match, and we're going to get a big Takeshita versus Ibushi match. And I also hope that we get plenty of Takeshita and Name Your Partner versus both of them, because
hell, let's run it in 1 week. Let's see what Takeshita has. Have him go against Ibushi and Omega 1 week apart, and let's see it. You want to talk about making a star? You put somebody in the ring with Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega.
They could do that Wembley and then All Out.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, yeah. So
the two shows.
Kenny and Don Callis, I know that's what the main storyline is, but obviously Takeshita is the one who is going to benefit the most because he's the actual wrestler. And I think once they have that match, I bet he beats Kenny clean in their first match, because I know Kenny's a huge fan of his and he's going to do whatever he can to help him get over too. I mean, Kenny Omega is pretty much bulletproof. So
Teflon.
Teflon. There you go. He's
untouchable. Like I said, I think why not make him even more so? Because imagine him having those two matches, and I have full confidence they would be 5-star matches. Like, it'd be some great stuff.
And have Takeshita win both of them.
There you go. Stars made. He's
just star at that point. I think Takeshita, I don't, unless he sticks around in America for longer than I'm expecting, I think when he goes back to Japan eventually, he's going to be a massive star, to the point where he could stay here and be a massive star if he didn't want to go back home.
He'll be the next Okada.
I mean, other than the fact that he isn't employed by New Japan, I mean, I could totally.
But with him, if I'm not mistaken, he wanted to come back to America after his first excursion he did. That's what I heard, yes. Yeah, it was his choice to come here. Yeah. So he wants to be. It's not like I'm just here to get basically reps and his style. Like, I want to be here.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. In Japan, he is employed by probably the third or fourth biggest company in the country, as opposed to over here, AEW is, number 2, whereas whatever number 3 is in America is way far down the list. So he's definitely getting a lot more exposure in the United States.
Yep.
And, I mean, obviously Tony Khan is a fan of him because he's paired up with Callis and he's involved with the BCC and the Elite, which is the A storyline on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Blood and Guts is probably going to be an hour-long match too. And
I'm just waiting for the shot. We're gonna have. I'm fully expecting it to be Yuta that takes it though. Killer Kota is coming in, and Yuta's gonna hit him with something and thinking he got it, and Kota's gonna come up, just stand up, and he's gonna kick his freaking head in.
Yeah,
and it's going to be loud. It's gonna be one of those that it hurts you watching.
I have a feeling there may be a few of those because I think that match. It's called Blood and Guts for a reason, but I think it's also going to be a lot of slapping meat.
This is why I hate that Danielson got hurt, because imagine them two standing in there trading kicks.
He'll be back. Now that they're both in the same company, I do hope that we get a Danielson Kota Ibushi singles match at some point. So
But if we don't get Danielson in there, we got Pac. Imagine Pac and
any of these
Ibushi.
combinations are amazing. Yes.
I'm just talking about trading shots like that look violent. Those two, like they're gonna trade some kicks.
And I'm sure Moxley is gonna let Kota just unload on him too. Like, kick me in the head hard enough that you can make me bleed so I don't have to do it for myself.
So definitely that's going to be for me the highlight this week is Blood and Guts.
It's a huge Dynamite episode.
I am excited to watch that. And Ibushi is a lot of it, and just seeing how all this plays out. Good thing about AEW fans, we've seen it with Okada, we've seen it with others. Very welcoming of the Japanese wrestlers.
They watch more than just what's happening around them.
Yep, they know what's happened. They know who these people are. They understand how big a deal it is. And I love how the announcers immediately reference the Golden Elite are fully back. So now, when they come out together, it's going to be – they're going to have like a huge entrance, obviously, too.
Oh, yeah, I think it's – because, I mean, think about it. They announced Kota. He was only on the video. It wasn't like he was actually there in person. So they're still going to get that huge pop of him showing up for the first time.
And that was probably intentional.
Oh, yeah. Plus, yeah, I would have to assume so.
Because it's going to be a big deal to see him walk out on TV the first time, not just a video of him, but to see him. Because we haven't seen him in AEW since All In, the original All In.
I mean, we haven't seen him anywhere other than Bloodsport in like two years.
So I'm curious
when he originally hurt his shoulder.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that. Obviously, we know he's going to come in looking like $1 million. Look, he always looks in great shape, but with that time off and the recovery, curious to see just how good shape that is. Because I'm based on everything we've seen before, fully expecting to see just an unreal Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, I have extremely high expectations for. I mean, I'm looking forward to this Blood and Guts match way more than any of the other ones that I ever have, just because.
Look at the pieces in it.
Yeah, that's pretty much why. It's a good story all around, no matter what. But when you factor in all the pieces, some of which we're seeing brand new in AEW, I mean.
And I think part of it, some of the others, it was put together quicker. This has been a long term. This feels like a true blow off, not just a quick go to it and blow off. This has been
going since like April.
So we've had a good run with it.
I agree.
So it's very fitting for this to be the blow off.
And I keep going back to, I remember at the very beginning of the year, Kenny Omega, I saw an interview, and I don't know, I assume he said this ironically now, but he said that one of the things he wanted for this year in AEW, partly because it was his contract year, I guess, he was like, I want matches with friends, not blood feuds.
He was enjoying it.
I heard him say that, I was like, I don't see how well that's going to work out. And now he's in Blood and Guts. And
I think I remember that because this is when they were doing the trios. I remember it's when they were doing the trios run with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
When he came back from all his injuries.
7 is when it was, yeah.
It's when he came back from all his injuries, and he's like, right now it's just about having fun and going out. It's not about blood feuds. I'm sure that time will come, but right now it was just fun. And so now it's transitioned to, okay, fun's over, blood feud.
Yeah, it's just about as blood feud as it gets. They're stabbing each other with fucking screwdrivers and stuff.
I mean, it was a good week, I think, all around. I mean, AEW had a great week. We kind of talked about WWE. I watched some of the stuff on it. Raw. I mean, for me this week, it didn't have, like last week we talked about how there were some highlights. This didn't have as much feel for me. Dom is still, he just gets that nuclear heat.
And I did notice that I feel like Dom is getting progressively better in the ring too. And it's, for me, and maybe this is because I don't watch WWE regularly, so I sometimes can go weeks or months between seeing a Dominic Mysterio match. I feel like his work is actually catching up to the heat that he's getting. Because I watched the main event, and I thought it was a very good match. But, I mean, overall, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I watched the whole show. I thought some of the stuff with Judgment Day, which obviously that was built into the main event too. I think the Priest and Balor stuff is somewhat interesting as well. So I am keeping up on that storyline and anything with Sammy and KO, because I was glad that they got to be involved in the main event as well, because we were talking about last week how they've fallen off.
Then on the SmackDown side,
and I didn't watch any SmackDown, I'll admit that.
You didn't really have as much of the Bloodline stuff going on, which that's carried that show.
So there was no Roman, I guess.
No, and here lately, like Theory's US title run, man, it makes you wonder why they had him beat Cena clean to this be the results. It's been nothing special since then.
Yeah, that was some boring shit.
Gunther, on the other hand, is still destroying that. They need to, I'm sure they've already decided he needs to break Honky Tonk's record.
I think that's pretty much a given. I do need to start paying better close attention to Gunther's stuff on SmackDown. Whether I'm going to watch the show or not, I can. That's how my WWE watching is. I've got different storylines that I'm paying attention to, but I'm not watching complete shows.
So he's on the cusp of catching Honky Tonk's run. Really think about it. He is a very believable wrestler that you think could hold the title for that many days, because he slaps the shit out of you.
And have they made the match with Drew official for SummerSlam? Because
I don't know if it's official yet, but they're going that route.
I think that's the match I'm most looking forward to for SummerSlam right now, because it's going to be incredible. I hope, and I like Drew, but I hope Gunther does not lose. I want him to be Intercontinental Champion forever. Or you know,
at SummerSlam we're gonna get Brock and Cody again,
right? And Jay and Roman, of course.
And then Seth's gonna have a match, of course.
I think aren't they doing Seth and Balor, right?
I don't know if they officially announced it, because they're playing into the story of Priest and Balor's issues.
Priest's Money in the Bank. He came out during the Money in the Bank title match. Yeah, Finn blamed Priest for losing, and obviously they're going to have a blow up at some point. But on Raw this past week, they beat Sammy, KO, and Seth Rollins. So, and they were on the same page. So clearly, you know, they were hugging and stuff to end the show. So clearly they're going to break up here in the next few weeks. I'm going to guess that that's probably going to happen at SummerSlam.
But it didn't really do as much for me this week, because I mean, hell, last week I think I came on here just praising everything I was watching for them.
They have good weeks and they have bad. I mean, AEW does too. I just feel like they're on a run right now, because it's like I think they're more consistent in general, but they are on a run, especially leading up to the two big shows. That pretty much is what we keep coming back to.
The last thing I have before we go is just a little bit of unfortunate news of Mark Briscoe getting hurt, getting pulled from the match on Friday. I'll be honest, Briscoe and Claudio was what was going to have me spend my money on that pay-per-view. Because other than that,
it's Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that card's pretty much all shot to hell, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the biggie. That was going to be the biggie. They really haven't announced any of the matches either.
I mean, at this point, I think they're just going to come up with what sounds like really great matches on paper to get those hardcore fans that are going to buy, just because they know, like, okay, this match is going to be awesome. This match, because they've got the people to do that. The storylines are, you can't help that, because I read that there was an interview with Tony, and he said originally it was going to be Claudio and Eddie, and then he gave the blessing for Eddie to go do the G1, and then he was going to tie Eddie and Mark in somehow, and then of course it was going to be Mark. And now we're not going to have that. So he actually said that booking this show has been kind of like booking Forbidden Door from last year, where his matches got blown up by injuries then too. So I mean, it's not like anybody is to blame, but I bet they'll still have a great card, just because they have, you know, they'll have 5-6 matches where people get to go out there and just go nuts. And
yeah. But that was gonna be the selling point for me, was watching that, and hopefully.
So are you not going to watch it now?
I mean, I still may.
I'm about to say I may or may not. I haven't decided. I literally, with that match canceled, I have no idea what a single match on that show would be. So
it's gonna have to be some stuff, some matches on paper that really catch my attention.
So Claudio clearly is going to main event with the title. Who is a person, if they announced it right now, it's going to be Claudio defending against, name your person, that would make you say right off the bat, okay, I'm going to buy that show. That is actually a possibility, because we're not going to have like CM Punk on Ring of Honor and Danielson's hurt and stuff. Somebody who could genuinely, believably do that.
I don't even know.
I know.
Don't even know.
I mean, what if they said it's going to be Claudio and Kota Ibushi?
Take my money.
That's not going to happen. But that's why I said believable. Because, I mean, one, Kota's doing Blood and Guts 2 days before, and he hasn't been working recently, so he's probably going to be lying in bed for 2 weeks after this match.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think of the people that have had any association with Ring of Honor that would actually go in there. And I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people that would have great matches. I just can't think of who it is off the top of my head that I think is actually possible to show up on that show.
I can't
But
think of
at this point, they're going to have somebody big. Otherwise, that show is going to tank pretty badly.
Yeah. That'd be the most expensive video library ever bought.
Yeah. I did keep up with the Ring of Honor TV show for the first month. And then, I mean, we just said a minute ago, there's so much good wrestling. I can't keep up with all of the AEW and New Japan that I want to, much less anything on top of that. So I haven't watched the Ring of Honor TV show probably since that first month.
But yeah, hate to wrap up on a sour note, but it was also worth noting about Mark because, yeah, it's, as much as we love all the stuff these companies do, it's we're just like others. We're not going to get what we wanted, so it's basically you have to earn me spending my money.
Yeah, obviously it sucks. I think at some point Mark's going to come back and he is going to win that title. It's not like he's hurt and not, I don't know what the injury is, but it's not like he's going to be out for a year having neck surgery or anything like that. So the last point that I had after that, the other thing that I was thinking about, and this is from Dynamite, and you can kind of tie it into Blood and Guts. Don Callis has so much TV time. He's involved in multiple storylines, the stuff with him and Jericho. So I actually I hope that Jericho goes with him. And after the stuff with BCC and the Elite has run its course and is over, and your A storyline is finishing up, and of course you can have plenty of other storylines branch off of that. It's not like it's a dead thing, but I would love to see Don Callis and the Callis family, just like, go back to the late 80s, the Heenan family, Don Callis doing Bobby Heenan, having his own family and just torturing the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be Jericho and Takeshita, and I mean, maybe BCC is involved. I don't really see John Moxley as a guy who's going to be following around Don Callis.
Anybody.
So I don't know how much that would work, but I think the idea of a Callis family would be awesome. And I thought that the fact that they actually got that video footage to show on Dynamite, that was from Tony Condello's independent promotion and I don't even know what part of Canada it is, but I think they're the ones that do those tours way up north into Canada that are those treacherous tours that all the people talk about, where they're riding over iced over lakes and snow is 8 feet tall and it's just treacherous. And they're going and doing these shows in the far reaches of Canada. And they actually had that on tape with Callis, Jericho, and Bad News Allen, who was genuinely their mentor there, because at that point he'd already, done New Japan Forever and he had done Bad News Brown in the WWE. And being able to tie in a video that was from 28 years ago into the storyline, and it makes sense. I mean, I think that's awesome. That's why as soon as I saw that, I was like, I already like the idea of Don Callis having his big heel stable.
Well,
I
you,
really want it. And
you said you can't see.
going to be Jericho deeply involved as a member or battling against them as a babyface.
Well, you said you can't see like Mox following somebody, but think about the Heenan family. You had freaking Andre.
Yeah, I mean,
And
yeah.
Andre, you look at him like he will never follow somebody. Just if you look at his sheer presence, like he doesn't have to follow anybody. He was part of the family.
He was in the Heenan family for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, and it worked great. So you have a very good point.
Same thing with Haku.
So you're tying this into all kinds of stuff that we've been talking about now.
So, I mean, but it's just showing the believability of a Mox and Jericho. Yeah. Andre, the physical presence, he could just obviously have done whatever he wanted. Haku, everyone says, was the toughest SOB that they've ever met in their life, where he bit a guy's finger off at a bar.
I think he probably did more than that in some other bars too. But
because I remember like when
I love the Heenan family. You know,
I remember when DX invaded Nitro, the only person they were worried about being behind that door was Haku, because they're like, he is batshit crazy.
Yep.
Like he might kill us.
Yeah.
And I mean, and think about all the people they had on that roster back then on WCW. And if that's the one guy that they're worried, that probably tells you something about where he's at.
No, yeah, Haku is pretty much considered the biggest badass in the history of wrestling ever. But no,
so you got that biggest badass that followed Heenan. I mean,
John Moxley is kind of following Callis as it is right now anyway, as deeply as Callis is involved in the BCC elite stuff. So,
and you got to think, Moxley was following Regal, so he has shown he will follow somebody. If I believe in you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
for the cause.
Yeah, if you bled with him.
Yep, and Callis has, because
I know
he's got the scar to prove it.
Because earlier I was telling you that is one of the gnarliest scars that I've seen on somebody's head in a long time. So I think
the storyline that actually fits in why they would, because
I know actually we're making this make a lot of sense the more we talk about it. But I just think if they did that, and that was the big heel issue on Dynamite or Collision or both for like a year, that could basically run all of your top storylines.
Or Blood and Guts, do we get Jericho's answer by him getting involved in the match?
So I had thought that maybe there was a small chance Jericho could have been the fifth person, but I'm glad that he wasn't. But I wouldn't be shocked if Jericho was somehow involved in the match.
I think he will be.
Going to be linked with Don Callis for a while.
Yeah, I think he will be. But yeah, what a week. I think we could go double down this time and do it, but then it'd be like an unwatchable video because attention spans.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few things I wrote down that we didn't get to, but that's because I just didn't think they were at the level of what we were talking about. And even like I said, probably pretty important, but
it took us 55 minutes to even bring up Ibushi. It tells you something.
I mean, yeah, I'm a big Ibushi fan, and I think he's going to do some insane stuff. I'm glad that there's a top on the cage so that he doesn't try to jump off of it.
Or he's
going to figure out a way to do it anyway.
Or they're going to go to the outside and climb up.
Are they going to end up on top of it like
every single one so far?
I guess you're right. That's not unusual. Okay, then in that case, is Kota Ibushi going to be the one who gets thrown off, or is somebody going to get thrown off and Kota Ibushi is going to be the first one to try to actually perform an offensive maneuver off the cage?
God.
I honestly hope that doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. And if it does, I just hope that he's okay.
Well, good thing Sting's not in the match because we know he'd be.
Oh my God, he would jump off of it for real. I think Sting is probably still laying in bed from that table spot off the ladder, wondering what the hell he was thinking. But no, it's going to be
tomorrow. Tomorrow, big night. It's apparently my father-in-law is coming to have dinner with us, and I got news for you, Pops. We're watching wrestling.
Hey, the more the merrier. Hell, we got important shit to watch, so let's sit down. Let's get through this dinner and sit down and watch.
Everybody knows. Do not ask me to do anything on Wednesday night. Like that's
okay.
9 night of the week of come 7 o'clock, you get nothing out of me.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I forget that it's at 7 for you. I wish it was at 7 o'clock my time too, because that's a much better time frame than 8 to 10 that I have. But yeah, I mean, we could keep going probably for a while, but I mean, are we missing anything huge that we feel like happened over the last week that we haven't talked about before? I feel like we've covered it pretty good.
I think we got it all.
I'm sure we're missing something important, and we'll realize once we're done. But yeah, so we were recording 2 days late this week. We were saying our schedule going forward is recording on Sunday, so I could post on Monday. It's Tuesday. I'm going to post tomorrow, so it'll be up before Dynamite. But another thing, and we're not sure exactly when we're going to record this, but we're going to do our first, because the name of the site is 5-Star Wrestling Reviews, past and present, not just present. Our very first past review is going to be WrestleMania 6, which was the second ever wrestling show that I ever watched. And the first.
And I've just now watched it for the first time, honestly.
That was you watching it for the first time?
Yes, it was.
Ever?
Yes. The whole show. I've seen Hogan Warrior, but I have not seen the whole card.
I will tell you, and I am not exaggerating, if I tell you that I think I have watched that show 100 times in my life, the whole thing, because of all the times I rented it as a child. I'm going to guess that I rented it at least, we'll say 10 times as a minimum. And each time I rented it, I watched it all the way through at least 4 times.
Yeah, it was my first one. And obviously with it being fresher, that's why it was easy for me to make that Andre reference.
Before you were born. I mean, so...
Yep, I was born in 90, so.
But
I remember the first
months after this show.
I remember the first WrestleMania that I rented and watched was the Brett and Shawn Iron Man match.
Okay,
because that's the first I rented and watched.
That was your first WrestleMania rental. WrestleMania 6 was mine, so 6-year difference. That sounds about right.
That was my first WrestleMania rental from Blockbuster back in the day.
Well, then maybe we'll have to add that to the list of our past reviews. But okay,
I'm picking the next one, and I know.
No, yeah, you're picking. This was my choice. TJ gets the second choice,
and it will be. I'll go ahead and spill it. It's going to be a WCW event.
Do you have an idea of exactly which one?
Yeah, the most controversial one.
Oh, so we're going to watch Starrcade '97.
Yes, we are.
All right. I can't say that I'll be watching that for the first time, but the fact that you just told me that you just watched WrestleMania 6 for the first time, which is a show that literally was like a building block of my childhood, I cannot wait to talk about that, because to say that is a little different than what we've been talking about all week or over the last hour and a half of the last week of wrestling would be an understatement. So I can't imagine. I've watched it so many times that I wouldn't need to go back and watch it again to review it. I'm going to anyway and take some notes about some of the most important things for me. But I mean, I could pretty much recite how that card goes just off the top of my head. But I am very looking forward to talking about that.
And one that we need to review was the first pay-per-view show we attended together, the Ring of Honor, where, if you remember, Jay White made his American Excursion debut. We were there for it. And
that was the one that was in May in Concord, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah, and the main event was Jay Briscoe and Jay Lethal 2.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah, okay. So we'll say WrestleMania 6 is.
Because I think that'll be a fun one since we were both there live.
I agree, and I don't know if I've probably never gone back and watched that on.
I bought the DVD because I saw us sit in second row the whole night.
Okay, so I think it's on Honor Club, so it shouldn't be hard for me to find it. But so first one, and again, we haven't worked out a schedule on when we're doing this. Number 1, WrestleMania 6. Hopefully we can record that at least in the next week or so. Number 2, Starrcade '97. 2 hugely important shows, main evented by the same person, who actually lost the main event of both of those, though under 2 totally different circumstances.
Yeah.
And 2 people that were tag team partners. So those shows are linked together for all time anyway. Never mind. I know you didn't even plan it that way. But then
you had to know I was going to pick a WCW.
No, I was hoping you were, because that's what I'm talking about. I want to get a wide variety. Me and Adam are doing some of our G1 reviews. We did the preview. We're going to record in the next couple of days to cover the first 2 or 3 nights of the tournament. But we're also, what me and Adam used to watch together in high school was the ECW pay-per-views live. We would get all of those. So we're going to do an ECW show. But so, yeah, for us, we got Mania 6, Starrcade 97, and then we're going to do, I think it was Ring of Honor Best in the World 2017? No, 2016.
And I can go ahead and tell you, I know
before I got married.
So it's probably going to be yours. It's probably going to be more so the founding WWF period stuff. Mine's going to be more WCW because that's what I grew up on.
All right.
When you get to my second pick, I already know what my second choice show is.
Well, what is it? Go ahead and drop it.
Goldberg at the Georgia Dome, Monday night.
All right. Hey, I remember watching that live myself. Obviously, I'm older than you, so I was watching it from a slightly different perspective. But so that's our 4th show. So we've got a lot of stuff planned. We're going to record. I mean, we've watched all these shows. I'm going to go back and watch them again, of course. But that's what the schedule is. We're going to continue to do our weekly show. If we can somehow find time to record all of these shows, I am very pumped to talk about WrestleMania 6, Starrcade 97, Ring of Honor, Best in the World. I think it was 2016. I'm not positive. I think it was.
We'll go back and look, but
and then the Georgia Dome Nitro where Goldberg beat Hogan,
where he blew the roof off the building,
literally.
So that's gonna make it fun. Where basically we get to watch, like you'll get to see me talk about this through like the guy who this stuff that got me hooked, and I get to do the same for you. Then we get to share some of the stuff we've done together. We've done different things. We'll cover some other more modern manias at some point.
Of course, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Anything and everything is on the table for the future. I mean, again, first episode, we talked about how we got into wrestling. Well, now we're seeing for each of us the shows that really, really hooked us in. So This is like building up our origin story too. So
definitely look forward to it. Look forward to talking about Blood and Guts. I have high expectations, and I have confidence they're going to meet those expectations.
Yep. We'll be recording next Sunday, I should say this coming Sunday, a few days after that show.
Barring life happening again.
Of course. Worst case, we'll have the review posted before Dynamite of the following week. That's the cutoff point for me. So
I can say since we started doing this, I look at wrestling Twitter a lot less.
I try to not really look at wrestling Twitter at all.
Well, that's all my Twitter is. So, but I've noticed because
I don't really use Twitter much at all. That's that all. Period. So I guess that's it.
But I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a good week. I'll go back and watch the highlights of Raw and all that.
Yeah, me too.
But we got a whole nother week of shows. Talk about it.
I will say Raw and SmackDown are going to have to put on some pretty amazing shows if they're going to compete as far as for our attention with Blood and Guts. So I definitely, obviously, we're going to talk WWE. I hope that they do some cool shit this week and we do talk about them. I'm not hating on them at all, but it's going to take a lot to override Blood and Guts for our number one topic when we meet next weekend.
For sure. So,
but that's going to wrap us up. We're going to get out of here. It's getting late. We'll be back next week. Maybe before then, we'll be back with WrestleMania 6. Maybe not. It'll be sometime here in the near future. But you know what our schedule is? We're going to stick to it. And if you like what you see, or at least don't hate it, click the like button, hit subscribe, join the party. There's like 5 of us now, I think, something like that.
You got one constant, Josh, and a revolving door of guests.
Yes, everybody has to start somewhere. So we have started, and we're not going to stop.
So look forward to it.
Look forward to it, man. All right.